Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I wanted to give you guys a little like a download of how I have come deeper into myself. And I've talked about this a little bit in some of my like testosterone update videos, but I wanted to go deeper into this because I know some of you, especially those of you who are on the spiritual path and may also be in this situation of, really looking at your polarity. Are you masculine? Are you feminine? Um, Sometimes it's like, okay, well, how do you know? How do you know who you are, what you are? And I will say that a lot of that is a process of you discovering you. And I'm going to talk about my process here. And I hope that that will give you a little bit of insight into how you might approach your own. And for those of you who have been watching me for a little bit, you probably know the story already. But, for me, I was approached around this time last year about, on my spiritual journey, looking at my polarity and how I like to have sex. And, when that question came to me, like it triggered me like nothing else. And I really had to look at that. And, through that process of like moving through my feelings that came up there, it was revealed to me that I'm actually a divine masculine. Um, and it was something that, I claimed, but, emotionally, I still have had to like catch up because there has been a lot of feelings associated with that come up. There's a lot of, and the world reflects that of like, oh, are you really a masculine? You didn't know, huh? What? Meh, meh. Like a bunch of bullshit out there that, I've seen you fuck off. But, that was reflected to me, all of my doubts about like being a man and, that like confusion that I was moving through of, really discovering myself. And, I had to look at that honestly, okay? It's like, all right, did I just, look at this and decide that I was a man, or did I, was this like forced on me in any way? And I had to go back and like really look at it, and so that I could go through all of those feelings of feeling like um, how could I have not known, and all of this, and what makes me feel like a man, and just really like putting it all in on the table and looking at that. And I feel like the last year has been me like kind of being this like little boy who's been like, I'm scared, I don't know what to do, and trying to come into myself. And as I've gone deeper, God has shown me all of these hints of like how all along there were, signs that I was a little different than like the girls in my life. Um, and how like I was always like getting along with the men in my life a little bit better, those who were masculine, and like the friends that I had that were girls were tended to be on the masculine side. Um, and the ones that I got along with that were more like a romantic, flirty nature, either were A, like more feminine men, or B, like relationships that didn't really make sense to me at the time. It was like, I put myself in situations where it's like I was supposed to be like gelling with this like these very like feminine women who like would do their nails and all this stuff, and it just wasn't me. And you can't really point to that like you didn't like to you didn't like to do your nails and hair, and say like, oh, that's masculine or that's feminine. But what I'm going at is like the deeper energy underneath. So what I've done is I've gone back and looked at even like old movies, old things that I like resonated with, and looked at past relationships. And I really like felt into the dynamics of those relationships, like what actually was going on in those areas. And, you know, I went back and like one of my favorite movies as a kid was The Lion King. And I was like, I always like resonated with Simba more than I did with Nala. I always like resonated with that like energy of wanting to be like that strong, like masculine figure, but feeling like I couldn't be. I liked, more masculine things as a child, like I liked Dragon Ball Z. I liked Power Rangers. My first friends in school were boys rather than girls, and the girls that I were friends with, it was always just like, again, like a little weird. It was like I just never quite gelled with them. I was there because of, I don't know, like I just never quite could connect with them on the same level I could with like some of the boys in my grade. And as puberty and all that hit, I would have like these weird moments where um, I would be helping out a friend that was a girl, and someone would just like make a comment that like I was gay or something, and it like triggered me. I was like, what? No, 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 no. Because, I grew up in a very like fundamentalist Christian like background, and, that was not acceptable. And I remember coming out when I thought I was like at least bi, possibly a lesbian, like at the end of my high school years, beginning in college, and just seeing the look on like my father's face of like, what? Like, and I wasn't even like coming out to that level. I was like just defending the LGBT community, and just like the look of like, you better not be, was just like really devastating to me as like someone who was like, oh well, this doesn't feel safe to explore. I'm gonna be kicked out and not supported. And at the time I wasn't on like a real like spiritual path. I was just on like a rebellious teenage path, and I was like, I don't want to be kicked out. I don't want to be ostracized. I was rebellious to a point, but I wasn't ready to like fully just like say, fuck you, dad, and, completely ruin that relationship, because there was like, that financial underpinning of like, I need your support to go to school. So I have to like obey to a certain extent. And, it wasn't something that I really wanted to go too far into, because, I hadn't dated that much in my life anyway. I was like more interested in, doing my own thing. And like when I was in relationships, like I would give too much of my power away. And that's like a pattern that I'm still going deeper into healing, of like not giving all of myself to a person. And that's where the twin flame relationship really comes in, is that, when that pattern tried to play out in my union, like that was like that was like a big thing of like, this codependency cannot happen. And as like the fallout from that, I'm like, oh shit, you're right. Like I was like giving my power away. I was like not being myself. I was just like trying to conform and trying to make this other person happy. And that's not like, you can't do that in a twin flame relationship. You have to be yourself. Your twin flame doesn't recognize you when you're like trying to be someone else. And as I went deeper into trying to be like a feminine, the worse I did at work, the worse I like felt. I was angry. And, I was just like trying to keep pushing, because I was like, I'm just like numbed out. I'm angry. And the reason I was numbed out and angry is because I was a numbed out dude. I'm able to like look at that and say like, oh yeah, like there are certain things I liked about like romancing myself and taking care of myself, but those things weren't necessarily feminine. It was just like, I needed to take care of myself. I needed to put myself first. I needed to reprioritize. And, things that I associated with being a strong, independent woman was like, oh, I was actually just in my masculine energy. I was like working out all the time. I was like taking charge at work. I was doing my thing and like not really giving a fuck. Just like, I'm just gonna do me. I'm gonna get my shit done. And as soon as I started giving my power away and acting like the girl, the quality of everything like suffered. Like it was like, oh, suddenly you're not doing so hot. Like things are falling apart. It's because I was trying to be who I wasn't. And yeah, like just going back, it makes so much sense, the dynamics I've had in my relationships of like feeling like that, kind of feeling like I get along with the bros, and then feeling like I had to be separate because I'm supposed to be this little girl who is proper and whatever. And mature and da 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 da. And like that's never been me at all. Like I've always been, kind of stubborn, but I've always been this like headstrong, driven person who I I do what I feel that do what feels good, and I don't do what doesn't feel good. And there's been resistance to doing things that are probably good for me that I still work through. But I guess what I want to say is like I've always like felt like I was a presence in the room. Like I've always just been there. I'm always feeling like, I step up and do and give direction and help people when I'm called to, and when I'm not called to, I tend to sit back. And when I was in that energy of like I need to be everything to everyone, I need to, you know, put on a dress, I need to put on my happy face and go to work and be, what people expected of me. Like I felt bad. And when I, stopped caring, and I was like, I'm just gonna be me, and I showed up in workout gear, and just like felt strong in myself, was when I was like most in my masculine. And I like still like had this weird relationship with women, but it like, in looking back, it was like I was more in my masculine, and that's why I was like attracting women rather than like actually getting along with them on a female level, because I would try to like go and like do those things. I would like be invited to something. Oh, I'm gonna do your hair and stuff. And I was like, okay. And I would let them like play dress up with me, and it was just like, this is not me at all. And like looking back, it's like I've always just liked fiery, strong like women, and like that's what I've ended up like being in like these weird like girlfriend relationships with, is like I was probably just like the girl version of the guy that they wanted, and it's like I've always just been a guy the whole time. So yeah, like looking back at those things, it's like, oh, there's always just like hints. There's always hints of like how I interacted with people, who I got along with, who I like basically broed down with, versus who it was like this weird like dating relationship that we weren't dating. I was like the guy friend, like the friend zoned guy friend. And like looking back at those dynamics, it's like everybody like knows on like their core level if someone is masculine or feminine, whether you like admit it or not, or you consciously are aware of it or not. Like there's always like, oh, there's just something off about that person. Like maybe they're more masculine than feminine, maybe they're more feminine than masculine. And like, especially like for me, like when I would like have sex with people who were men, I've had so many people who like came out to me as like, I think I might be gay, after like they either slept with me or were like intimate with me in some way, like whether like dating or whatever. And it never really made sense to me. I was like, why am I like attracting men who are gay? Because I was like in my masculine in those moments. I was like just being myself, and I was attracting more feminine men. And then the people who were like masculine that I dated, something that my friend Ray like recently like related to me is like he had been in relationships like that too, and he was like giving power away, giving that masculinity to them, and kind of like a weird like power play. And I like looked back at one of my first like love relationships, and it was really a lot like that, of like, oh, that's kind of what that relationship was. And as soon as like I was giving my power away, I was giving my masculinity away, and as soon as like that relationship became like sexual, it blew up, because it was like, oh shit, like this energy is the same. Nobody likes this. Like neither one of us really liked it. And it was like that first like glimpse of, oh, I might be something different. I may not actually like this. And I just didn't have the emotional capacity at the time to really like explore that, or the support to really explore that. Like I said, like even like going as far as like saying I might be lesbian was like, felt like it was going to be the end of the world for my relationship with my family. And now that I'm older and I'm able to like kind of divorce myself from being dependent on them in any way, it's easier to look at and say like, this is who I am. This is definitely who I've always been. Because in a way, I like always felt caged, especially like as I went deeper into femininity on my like spiritual journey. I just felt like I was in a cage. I felt miserable. I felt like I was performing. And as I've gone deeper into like grounding into my masculinity, I felt more free. I felt more able to express myself and be myself as me, instead of like having one life that I present to the world and one life that I have at home. I felt like I've been more capable of like really sharing who I am with the world. And there's still layers of that that I'm working through, of like, you know, like I said, like I've been going back to like old stuff to try to like place like, what is it that I liked about this, like, and God is showing me through new things too, new music and everything, you know, places where I like numbed out or ran away or had resistance to following dreams, and you know, really taking charge of like what I wanted. And you know, I feeling like I was like really trapping myself in a lot of ways of, you know, I'm a girl, so I have to do this. And like, no, I always like wanted to be one of the boys. I always wanted to be like in that space. And now I realize like I just had a lot of anger from at myself for putting myself in a woman's body. Like as soon as like I recognize myself as a masculine, you know, like there was that piece, but then there was that whole layer of like anger that I've been working through, like self-hatred of like being a man. And part of that, and I've mentioned this in other videos, is that, you know, I thought that I needed to be a woman to be loved by my father. And so as I've gone deeper into healing my relationship with God and my relationship like with Father God specifically, I, you know, have had to face a lot of that self-hatred and anger. And I know that there's still layers of this that I'm going to be probably working on for a while, because, you know, I've got 30 years that I've been like trying to hide, at least. I don't know if I was in a woman's body in another lifetime or not, but I've had 30 years at least of, you know, hiding, and now I'm healing through that worldview and changing it ever so slightly. And, you know, right now I feel like a teenager, whereas the past year, you know, I felt like a little boy. I definitely feel more like a man, or like more, I feel like a teenager, to be quite honest, at this stage in my life. And I feel like I'm kind of grounding into that like teenage phase, Gabe. Like, and it's kind of perfect. Like God creates like the best stories, right? Because there was this desire in my heart to kind of like grow up with my twin flame, and to grow up, you know, being myself. And I feel like in a lot of ways I've gotten this like weird like re-childhood, teenage years phase that I'm going through, and to the point where it's like, you know, I've even had like some of the teenage drama and like fights with my parents, like that have like played out, and like not directly with my parents, but with people who were like parental figures with me. And, you know, it's like, ah, shit, like there's a lot of areas of like I shouldn't have done that, or like I've made mistakes along the way. But you know, it's been a process of just learning who I am and what I desire, and, you know, learning not to care, and like just to forgive myself as I move forward. And yeah, I feel like I'm rambling a little bit about my story, but I feel like I have so much I want to share with you guys about just like what I'm discovering about myself, because you know, I've seen those questions of people who are like, oh, you didn't know. And I was like, no, like like on some level, I did know my entire life, like really. And then like there's all of this like me trying to protect myself from knowing because I wanted to hide. I wanted to hide from God. I wanted to hide who I am. I wanted to try to get love by being a girl. And really, the times that I was loved the most was when I was in my masculine energy, like just trying to be this like strong, independent woman. And really, I was just a man, just being in my masculine, like being like, all right, this is who I am. And as I've embraced that, I've been able to like find people that are like, you know, to have like, I've been healing like divine relationship. I've been learning to set boundaries. I've been learning like all of these things that what feels good to me and what doesn't feel good to me. And it's been a process. Like if you are like me and you know have either been asked to explore this or maybe you're exploring this on your own volition, you know, it's like give yourself that time to like really like take account of your life and like really see like, are you hiding? Like, do you live a separate life from what you portray to everybody on the outside to how you live at home? And you know, look at what that might mean. You know, like because masculinity isn't just like, oh, I like video games or whatever. There is an element of like what presence you bring to it and what you know, like for me, like I've always just like I would show up, I would be here, I would do the thing, and I would just like do my thing. Like that's who I am. And like there's an element of like I was gonna do whatever I want to do and nobody's gonna stop me. And um you know, like women can have that drive too. But like I definitely had more of a drive than this like this like blossoming radiance. I've definitely always just been more like, you know, I'm gonna go do this, I'm gonna go get the thing. And like when I like tried to be more submissive and give my power away and be like, oh, I just want this and whatever, like it just like it wasn't me. And like that's not saying that women are like that, but that was like me trying to like play a woman because I don't, you know, understand what it means to actually be a woman. For me, like being in a woman's body has been you know, as this being my karma, it's, you know, just a gift to like have this, learn that emotional range and, you know, see that like this is not what I want. This is the contrast of, you know, not being in the body that you want, not being in like your true divine state. And, you know, learning to accept and love myself here, and still give from this place and help you guys like learn how to like discern for yourselves, like, you know, are you giving, are you receiving, are you you know, are you a masculine or feminine, are you a presence, are you a radiance, you know, like, you know, at your core what you are. And you know, it doesn't matter what body you were born in, and it doesn't matter what you thought for the last like 30 years or however many years it is. Like, you know at your core if you feel like you're hiding. You know at your core if like there have been moments in your life where you're like, you know, or maybe you got a little scared because you had these thoughts or feelings about someone who was clearly masculine or feminine, whichever one, and you're like, oh, like, why do I have those feelings? And, you know, some of that could be, you know, maybe your twin flame is in the opposite body, you know, maybe you're in a same-sex union, or some of it could be that that's just who you are. And it's good to look at that because your twin flame is only going to recognize you as much as you recognize yourself. And you know, I'm at this new level where I'm still discovering myself. I think Jason and Chrissy like recently described like every time they reach a new level, they're like in Pampers again. And like that's where I feel like I went from like being this little boy to being this like teenage Gabe who is kind of in Pampers. And I just have to keep moving, you know, and say like, you know, I'm in teenage years, you know, this next year is about becoming a man, you know, and I just go deeper with God on that level. And it's really like actually pretty beautiful that I'm having this experience, because when all of this kind of happened, like this like shift started happening, I was really scared and it looked like things were falling apart. But in a big way, it feels like I'm coming into that next level of who I am and going deeper into my masculinity, going deeper into what makes me me. And while I'm figuring that out, of course, like it's like, oh, questioning, twin flame, not twin flame, whatever. But like knowing the truth in my heart, it's like, of course, like I'm learning to see my divine self. And so, of course, like there's going to be that confusion in our union until we both start seeing our true divine selves and claim that 100%. And it's just a process, and God creates the most beautiful love story. So I'm just surrendered to whatever that means for me. So yeah, I hope this helped some of you guys, and maybe some of you guys are just like, Gabe's just rambling about his life at this point, and I think you might be right. But I enjoyed sharing it with you. If you guys like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe for more. If you'd like to work with me, I am a certified ascension coach. I help people, discover their polarities, come into union with their twin flame, find your life purpose. These are all things that, can be accomplished with ascension coaching. And so if any of that interests you, don't forget to check out my services at sacredtwinflameunion.com. And otherwise, I will see you in the next video. Thanks, guys.